Well, this is a situation I never planned for. Time was where a game couldn't come back from cancellation or vaporware status no matter how many fans pined for a glimpse. But in recent years, that's been upended quite spectacularly. Duke Nukem Forever, Shenmue 3, Chrono Trigger in Europe, that remake of Final Fantasy VII, all popping up out of nowhere. And that's only the games with official releases. Most of the time we get a 240p video of a beta version and that's it. So you can imagine my surprise when a pre-release version of Warcraft Adventures Lord of the Clans was leaked. A game cancelled in 1998 getting leaked 18 years later. That's absolutely nuts, it just doesn't happen. Fun fact, Google Docs thinks I should have said getting naked 18 years later. First of all, this isn't going to be a normal review by any stretch, if you couldn't tell already. It's really hard to judge the quality of an unfinished game because you don't know what state it would have been released in. Some parts are easily identifiable as unfinished, audio not syncing up to videos, written dialogue getting cut off for some reason, voice dialogue not matching written dialogue. Hell, that still shows up in released games today. Or this one, and I can't believe I had to play the game to find this out. Characters spontaneously speaking with the voice of Microsoft Sam.
Lie the truths that you seek.
The dwarves of the Northrend Pass are our nearest enemies.
Now, I understand that it's a placeholder while they finish implementing sound clips or even while they wait on recording new ones, and it's a pretty smart way of doing a placeholder too, but I still pissed myself laughing. Mind you, I would have hoped the voice acting was locked down for a pre-release version, but other parts, such as the overuse of generic responses, is something I can't promise they would have fixed. What I want to do is focus on the design and try to determine what parts they did well and what parts they didn't. This being the design they spent 2 weeks trying to fix and then cancelled. That one. So what are we looking at here? Well, Warcraft Adventures Lord of the Clans was a point-and-click adventure game scheduled for a 1997 release, which got pushed to 1998, and got its final push within days of E3 that year, that final push being off a cliff. A statement from Blizzard at the time pointed to the quality of the game not meeting Blizzard's standards rather than a decline in the adventure game genre or the company shifting away from the Warcraft universe. Bear in mind that Warcraft 3 wasn't even out at this point, let alone World of Warcraft, so consumers may well have been concerned that Azeroth was being abandoned. With the benefit of hindsight, we know that not only did Blizzard return to Warcraft in a big way, but the storyline of this cancelled game was adapted into a novel. Not only that, but characters in the game went on to feature in other Warcraft games. You may have heard of them, characters like Thrall or Deathwing. From a cancelled game to getting an RTS campaign and more or less an entire WoW expansion based on them respectively. Not bad. Although I don't think any other medium portrayed Deathwing smoking a hookah. I mean, Warcraft has its fair share of goofy shit, and I'm not as well versed in Warcraft lore as I could be, but I fear this is taking the piss. Also, Thrall kills him. Yeah. Spoilers, by the way. Neither of those made it into the book, I don't think. In fact, I've heard the whole hookah incident was a miscommunication with the Russian team in charge of the game's art. A team named Animation Magic. Yes, that Animation Magic. Zelda CDI Animation Magic. The art isn't the game's worst feature, oddly enough. In the 5 years since, my boy, they apparently learned the art of competence. Gone are the days when the simplest movements made a character look like a wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. If I hadn't done my research, I don't think I would have guessed it was them. Anyway, I got way off track there. I haven't even got to the story yet. Orcs is fighting, a mother holds a baby and looks sad while a murder shadow closes in. Sometime after, a Newman comes along, finds the orc baby alive and picks him up. It's fucking hilarious, apparently. The Ooman is Lord Blackmoor, who raises the Orcline in his hole to create the perfect warrior slave. Deciding the time is right to test Thrall, as he's been called, Blackmoor presents him with an orc captive and a knife, and gives Thrall the order to kill, but he can't do it. So Blackmoor finishes the job himself. This sends Thrall into a rage and he attacks his master. Ow, my shoulders. Oh, I'm gonna get a trapped nerve. Oh. For that vigorous massage, Blackmoor orders Thrall's execution. Geez, 22 years of work and you abandon it after one failed test? What kind of scientist are you? From here, you help Thrall escape the castle and track down the one link to his past, a remnant of the cloth he was found wrapped in, bearing a strange symbol. Now, maybe there's some dialogue I missed, or a cutscene was unfinished or missing, but after escaping the castle, I wasn't exactly sure what my goal was. I pretty much inferred everything I just said from that one piece of cloth. The story doesn't so much unfold as it bounces Thrall from situation to situation until he finds one epic enough to conclude the story. I see that as a drawback to how the story was told rather than the story itself. Certainly the novelization seems to be rated high enough. Later on, I got myself completely lost because the game teleported me to a new area without telling me what had happened. I think there's a cutscene missing, pre-release remember. Right, enough of that. Let's pretend this sort of review thing is following my usual order and talk about the interface. All you get on screen is pretty background and a scroll that unfolds into your inventory. One neat little feature is that you can press the shift key to move that scroll to the top left or bottom left corner. I wouldn't go as far as to give it a keyboard shortcut, but more options are always good. Unfortunately, the rest of the interface rhymes with coin because it's a coin interface and that's not how rhymes work. Left click and hold to get look, hand and mouth commands. Regular viewers will know I'm not a fan of these, and this version manages to hit two of my biggest peeves. First, there's a wee delay from clicking to coin appearing. For an action that you're performing hundreds, maybe thousands of times over the course of the game, you don't want to slow that down, it's going to feel awkward and clumsy. Second, it feels like your mouse has to travel even further to hit the hand. You actually don't, as long as it hits that dangly rope you're fine, but that's not where the eye is drawn to, that's not the part that you assume will make the hand verb happen. I only noticed that after I'd finished the entire game. You can judge for yourself if that's poor UI design or me being a dopey bastard. Also, you can get a list of objects in an area by pressing F1, but I don't think that was meant for release. See, it doesn't merely display all objects in the area, it lists every item that is, was, or is ever going to be in the area. You pick an item up, still on the list. So careful if you bust that one out, you could spoil a puzzle for yourself. Normally I don't spend that much time talking about art style, what with video being a visual medium, I figure you can see it and decide for yourself. This time I get to indulge my obsession with SVGA graphics. Kind of. I think of SVGA as 640 by 480 resolution with 8-bit colour, whereas Warcraft Adventures has at least 16-bit colour. It still has that SVGA quality I love about it though, the pixels are visible without being chunky, oh so good. I've heard complaints about the background art not matching up to the character art, and it doesn't. There's a definite contrast between obviously cartoony foreground and actually very nice painted looking background, but that contrast never bothered me. It's the same problem that old cartoons had, where anything that was going to move or animate looked significantly less defined. Didn't bother me then, doesn't really bother me now. However, I do concede the point that this looked a bit old hat in 1998. Much as I love Curse of Monkey Island, it looked a bit out of date and it had come out the previous year. It didn't help that Grim Fandango had been announced as using a 3D engine by that time. Putting the game design aside for one more minute, these graphics would have been great in 1996, pretty good in 1997, but 1998 was probably the last year you could have gotten away with this. We'll finish on the design. Good parts first, you can warp through exits by double clicking. I can name multiple modern titles that don't let you do this. Surprising to see here honestly, everything I hear about this game doesn't exactly send a message of competence, especially on the programming side. Given how hard this was to capture footage for, and the fact that the windowed mode keeps returning to the top left corner for no good goddamn reason, I'll believe it. For example, there's reports of inventory code being copied and pasted over 300 odd screens. The programmer part of me was in pain from that one. Allow me to explain briefly. If you need to use the exact same code in multiple places, you write it once and reference it everywhere you need it. Put something in there that says, yo, see that file? Grab whatever's in there, you'll need it. That way your code base is about half the size, and if you need to make any changes, you don't need to paste those changes into 299 other places. Assuming you even remember about that and you only fix it on one screen. Damn it, I nearly got into talking about design without another tangent. God damn it. Okay, design talk, let's try again. I'm not sure I buy the dark comedy marketing for this one. It comes across as an excuse to have super serious bits and funny bits in the same game without trying too hard to make them actually fit together. Dark comedy to me says mature, at least what counts as mature by 90s video game standards. Gallows humour, bit of bad taste, that's the kind of thing that dark comedy makes me think of. What you get in Warcraft Adventures are jokes. Plain jokes. Not all good, not all bad, sometimes involves a euphemism for male masturbation, but they're not dark comedy. Almost as if the jokes were written in because some of the most successful point-and-click games up to that point had a significant comedy element to them. This is before I get on to how goofy this game can be. Some of it is thematic. If you know anything about the gnomes in Warcraft, you won't be at all surprised to hear they strapped jetpacks onto pigs. And if you don't know about the gnomes in Warcraft, you must be very confused right now. What's that like? As for non-thematic goofy shit, here's Thrall, son of Duratan, snowboarding on the back of a shield.
Whoa, I can see my house!
You can see your house, Thrall? You mean the castle you were enslaved for 22 years, that house? To fail to cut a long story short, the tone dances around awkwardly like mid-90s coming-of-age movie reference. The parts of the game that you actually play don't get out unscathed either. Take this early scene where you've escaped from your castle-based imprisonment, yet there's an option to head back the way you came. The game won't let you go back, of course, not because it leads to a castle full of armed bastards, but because... wind. He can't go back because it's windy. Almighty Thrall, son of Duratan... Jeez. Nicely done animation, but wind? Later on, you stumble across an orc fighting a Wendigo. Oh cripes, we better help him out, he could be overwhelmed at any second. So we wander off to 2 separate screens, find a stick and a damp rag, combine the 2, then we get on a zeppelin to find this puddle of oil somewhere else, shove the rag and stick combo into it, then take another entire zeppelin ride back to the Wendigo so we can light that bitch up. Not sure the urgent nature of the situation and the travel requirements to stop it really matched up there. Maybe I'm underestimating how fast gobbo zeppelins fly, but that fetch quest could take up most of a day, I feel. The orc doesn't even appreciate it either, grumbling that you ruined his hunt. Mate, if you can't take him in a square go after being here all day, I'm no betting on you. Then again, this being Warcraft, he probably has to skin the arse off 9 more of those things, so I do sympathise. Observe Thrall having to climb down from a ledge so he can walk all the way up a ramp to end up at a spot which is about 6 obstacle-free feet away from where he started. The overuse of generic quips for negative action responses is bad enough. There's only so many times I can appreciate hearing,
I don't like the looks of this.
but when I saw it used in place of object descriptions, that's when I really started to worry. I realised that one could have come under the pre-release would get fixed category, but I'm not sure they would have caught it. And naturally I have to mention Deathwing smoking a hookah one more time because... what? Oh, okay, one more thing to complain about. The one thing every Scottish person is honour bound to complain about when something features dwarves. Terrible accents.
I see you managed to get off your bum and show up.
You must be the new hammersmith.
These aren't even the worst. I think it's going to be a while before anyone takes that crown from the tutorial in Age of Empires 2. No, I will not shut up about that. And yes, this isn't a design problem. You can shut up twice. Mind you, the female dwarves in this game have beards. Controversial issue at the best of times, yet I rarely see a game fall on this side of the debate. Brave choice. Now, to finish off, no really, I have a small section of unique and interesting things to talk about. You gain a handful of magic scrolls to use during your adventure. Rather than simply using them, that would be easy, you need to find an object to use on them first, an image of the person you wish to cast the spell on, for example, and you need to figure out what item is going to work. It's basically tacking an inventory puzzle onto a regular puzzle, but it feels more like you're activating a magic scroll than shoving the right key in the right box. By the way, I said tacking on an inventory puzzle quite deliberately. For the image of person to cast on example, Thrall has to draw the image from an existing image so he has an inventory item to use the scroll on, as opposed to using the scroll on the original image. It's not like he needs the object with him when he wants to cast the spell either. Once a scroll is activated, it's activated. Of course, that might not be as dumb as I made it sound. I had to skirt around a puzzle spoiler there. Well, that's everything I can think to say about Warcraft Adventures, at least in terms of deep analysis and nitpicking. I'm guessing this game would have always been notable, either for being one of the few publicly cancelled Blizzard games, or for being the only Blizzard point and click. I can't believe in my heart of hearts that the adventure game slump is something even Blizzard could have stopped, so yeah, pretty sure this would have been it. But Blizzard isn't a company known for putting out games that they know are merely okay. It's not their thing, especially when you couldn't do as much with patches as you can nowadays. I'm talking about a time when the magazine cover disc was a viable patch delivery medium. Once a bad game was released, it was more likely to stay that way. It's kind of disappointing that a game with the legend of Warcraft Adventures is only okay, but it was cancelled for a reason. The disjointed tone, awkward puzzle design, and a lack of overall polish don't do the game any favours. I can't even promise that fixing all of these would have made the game great, but I can easily imagine it being good. If nothing else, we could have had a game where pig flight controls was a usable object. And as a historic artifact, it's definitely interesting as any other in-progress work would be, but not for someone wanting a good game to play. Although you can have some fun telling your Warcraft fan friends all the lore-breaking parts. Oh yeah, Thrall killed Deathwing, Cataclysm never happened, haha. I don't feel strongly enough to say I enjoyed the game, but it's given me plenty to talk about.
Now all we need is a good game. Bring on the game. What game?